So at this point in time, we've got 2 cigars already wrapped. This is the wrapping stage. I've got 3 more in the mold. Cigars are always molded once they're in their binder and their fillers. And then they're wrapped. So I'm just wrapping these last 3. I like to, sometimes, I don't always do this, I like to roll, if they're large veins, like you can see here, I'll just roll them a bit so that they'll straighten out and soften out a little bit, so it makes them look a little nicer. It's like rolling a pie crust. The thing I find about rolling cigars is that it's a tactile thing, first of all. So as a piano player, it appeals to my tactile senses. And also, there's a lot of zen. I think it's interesting that the Cubans, when they roll cigars, they have someone reading to them while they're doing it, because it can be pretty boring. And they usually read some pretty interesting stories. They don't read the news or anything like that. They read Shakespeare, and these are just common people who are rolling cigars, and I find that quite interesting that they do that. Which is really where the name for one of the largest cigar brands in the world, Romeo and Julieta, came from. I guess they were reading that. And anyway, this is a binded cigar. I took binder and rolled my bunches up and twisted them, and as you can see, this one is somewhat uneven. I don't worry about things like that. It's the quality of the smoke in the cigar when it's finished that I'm concerned about more. So we'll roll this leaf onto this binder, and you touch a little bit of glue on the end to get it started. And this is just pecked in. It's nothing fancy about this. But get my little piano playing fingers to work here, doing something different and rolling it. People often ask me what keeps a cigar together, and it's actually the tension as you roll it that keeps it together. You're going to see something now that's quite interesting. Every leaf in this cigar is chosen for a purpose. There can be anywhere from 2 to 5 filler leaves, which are blended tobacco. It's all filler, different tobaccos. Then there's your binder, which is usually chosen for its strength because you want to wrap that tight. And then there's your wrapper, which is what this is. This happens to be from Nicaragua, and it is Connecticut shade tobacco seeds grown in Nicaragua. So I'm rolling this now, and as you can see, I'm putting about as much tension on that leaf without breaking it. And that's a fine line. That leaf could break any minute now, and I have to throw it out and get another one. And I don't like to do it because these leaves are the most expensive part of the whole show. So I very carefully roll this, and I stretch it to the limit, or to the limit of my fingers, feeling that it's to the limit. And I roll it up like this, and it slowly covers. And you can see that cigar leaf stretching. And wrapper leaf is known for its stretching, because that's really what holds, after the cigar has dried a little bit. And if I were really fussy, there's a little nick here, you see. I should cut that out, because after all, the cigar is going to have my name on it, so I'd better make it nice. So you just cut that out with your chaveta, which is a Cuban knife for cigars. And you finish it. So I'll put a little bit of glue up here. Keep the tension going so that the top end wraps tight also. And this cigar is going to be somewhat of a trumpet shape. It's kind of fun. A lot of music in rolling cigars. And it's a bit of this shape of the cigar is called the trumpet. And we'll show you what that means in a second when I get this roll up. I don't bother capping my cigars because capping is a whole other step. It takes time, and its sole purpose is to make the cigar look good. I don't really care how it looks. I want to. My concern is how it smokes. So I try very hard to keep it tight and keep it proper. And my concern again is how it smoked. Now I noticed I didn't really cut too much of this off, and it's making a mess of the end. It's not a very pretty end at all. I wanted a pigtail end. Cigars are somewhat forgiving, as is tobacco, providing you don't rip it, in that you can undo it and just do what I want to do here is cut the little end off. You see that end? And that's what's making it look really lousy at the back. So we'll cut that off, just like we trimmed the other section, and we'll re-roll it. And be careful not to rip it, and we'll be fine. And that's going to be a lot nicer. Look at that. I put a little pigtail on it, I call it. Now, a good Cuban cigar maker would cut this cigar flat and cap it with a very fancy cut. It's complicated. Capping cigars is a complicated art. It's part of the art that I just don't need to do. I don't do it because I don't need to do it. You're going to cut the cigar end off anyway before you smoke it, so why bother? That's for the big guys. I don't worry about it. And most guys that are amateur cigar rollers don't worry about it too much either. So that's going to be, it's almost a trumpet shape, they call it. It's narrow at the top and low at the head. That's the head of the cigar, and that's called the foot of the cigar, where you light it. So you don't want a box of cigars that are all different length and look weird. And this is called a box cutter. And it will, you set this to the length of the cigar that you want, which is that. That was the first one. So I cut that. It was the shortest one. So you always cut your shortest cigar so that you're going to save as much of the rest of them as you can. You put it in the cutter. Guillotine. Bam! And it's gone. And there it is. They'll all be the same length. So there you go. That's how you wrap a cigar. So we can do another one. And we can talk a little bit about music in this one. I retired, basically, from touring last year. And just before I did that, a lady in New Brunswick suggested I write music to the poem In Flanders Fields. I thought about it for a while. There are several versions of music to that poem by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. But as I researched the whole thing, I found it quite interesting. I discovered one of the lines in his poem was, "The torch be yours to hold it high," which happened to be the motto of my high school. And I didn't think about it for a while, and it suddenly dawned on me. I've seen this all before, and it was kind of spooky. So I thought, why not? I'll give the song a try. So I wrote my version of music to the song, to the poem In Flanders Fields, as my last song, so that I could retire from songwriting. And I enjoyed the experience. It was fun. I have done my song. I'm happy with it. A lot of people seem to enjoy it. I haven't had anybody who doesn't. Mind you, the poem is so outstandingly amazing in its content anyway that the music is second by a long shot. Well, then we thought, well, how are we going to play this thing, or who's going to sing it? And it's ideal for children in sort of a school situation where they can go through this whole song and sing it. So we're going to start recording a few schools that are interested in doing that, and I'm looking forward to it. And that's going to happen within the next month, before Armistice Day, as it's called in Canada, Veterans Day in the United States. And I hope people enjoy it. I'm very proud of it, and it's all Canadian. It's 100% Canadian production, and I think you guys will like it. So what has that got to do with cigars? Well, what happened was that as I retired, I decided that I had more time on my hands to do the things I really enjoy doing. So I do a lot more gardening than I could possibly ever do when I was on tour. And I do a lot more cigar rolling and fishing and all the good things in life. So I've rolled this with my rolling pin a little bit just to make it look a little prettier. Flatter is the word, I guess. And you can see the tension in this leaf. It's starting to unfold, and it's a bit tricky. It's got some funny stretches in it that are, I'm afraid if I pull it too hard, they're going to rip. So I'm going to do a little bit at a time here. You can roll it back and forth a little bit to make sure it's snug. And ideally, when you're finished, this line, which is on the outside, actually this is the line on the outside, this will be covered. This line actually disappears in a good cigar when it's properly rolled. You won't see that line, it'll be so tight, which is the way you want it. So there, I'm doing a pretty good job. See, there's where it started. It goes up the roll like that. And by the time the cigar has dried and cured for 2 or 3 months before you smoke it, those lines will just disappear. The tension will take over. See a little hole here, so what you do with that? Tobacco is very forgiving most of the time. So we'll just put a little glue there, and when it rolls over it, it's going to cover it anyway, so we don't worry about it. Oh, there it is. Once again, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to go up and smoke anyway, so what are we going to worry for? It's supposed to be fun, isn't it? Music's been fun for me in my life. I've just loved recording. Recording is a marvelous experience when you record something. It's like writing a book. You express yourself in whichever way you see fit. And it's a creation. It's something very live. And I sometimes wonder, this tobacco leaf is it's not quite alive yet, but it is a live product. It's a vegetable, really. And it's a living thing. It's a beautiful thing. It is very, very elastic. And that's what you need to roll cigars. So there's another one we've done. And it's a lovely old expression from an old man in England who rolls his cigars. And he said, after I rolled my cigars and I finished rolling them, he said, I polished them. And I thought, this old boy's lost it or what, but this is what he does to polish his cigars. And it makes sense. But his polishing this, as they used to say, was done on live skin, because there's a bit of wax and oil in your skin, and you want to transfer that to the leaf, which absorbs water and anything that touches it very readily. As I said, cigar tobacco is quite forgiving. So this is what he does to polish his cigars. And I have to admit, it sort of makes them look a little bit less new. And as this ages for a couple of months before it gets smoked, it will tighten up and it will look a lot better than it does right now. So, and I don't worry, as I said, I don't worry too much about looks. But see, now this one's a bit short, so I started rolling it too short. But anyway, that's okay. We're going to cut this here. Nobody's